Good evening, everyone. I am Elizabeth Vargas, and we're following breaking news tonight. In Arkansas, an urgent and active manhunt is underway for a convicted killer who escaped prison. And he is a former police chief. But first tonight, we have a new reality for the former Power reality TV couple. Todd and Julie Chrisley knew best. Then they knew prison, and now soon they will know freedom. The Chrisleys are expected to leave prison at any moment after Trump signed pardons for them today. The two TV stars turned felons. Back in 2022, a jury convicted the Chrisleys of fraud and tax evasion, guilty of defrauding Atlanta area banks of more than $30 million. Prosecutors say the duo used those fraudulent loans to buy expensive cars, designer duds, and mega mansions, all while portraying themselves as self-made millionaires on their hit TV show, Chrisley Knows Best. The prosecutors called the couple career swindlers who lied to banks, stiffed vendors, and evaded taxes at every corner. Julie Chrisley was also found guilty of obstruction of justice for repeatedly using glue and tape to falsify documents related to their family's finances. A judge sentenced them to a combined 19 years in prison, 7 years for Julie, 12 for Todd. But the Chrisleys now have their shot at redemption, courtesy of President Trump, who granted both of them a pardon today. The White House shared a video yesterday of the president telling the Chrisleys' daughter, Savannah, about what he was planning to do this afternoon.
Your parents are going to be free and clean, and I hope we can do it by tomorrow. Is that okay? We'll try getting it done tomorrow. So wonderful. Give them, I don't know them, but give them my regards and wish them a good life.
Savannah Chrisley has been fighting for her parents' release for the past 2 years, even taking her plea to last year's Republican National Convention.
726-00019 and 726-01019. These may be just numbers to you, but to me, they're my whole heart. These numbers are my parents' identification numbers in our federal prison system.
All right, let's go right now to NewsNation national correspondent Brian Enton, live for us outside the federal prison in Pensacola, Florida, where Todd Chrisley has been imprisoned. Brian, you were there when Savannah arrived just moments ago to pick up her dad. Has he been released yet?
Not yet, Elizabeth. And you mentioned that Savannah's been working hard to get this pardon, and it seems all of her efforts have now paid off. President Trump just a few hours ago officially signing the pardon. She actually just drove in a couple of minutes ago right through the front gates of the federal prison here. And we anticipate really at any moment she's going to be coming out with her dad, Todd Chrisley. Let me show you the scene. There's a lot of media out here. You've got all of these fans of their TV show. It was the #1 TV show on cable for a long time, so a lot of people know the family. I spoke with Savannah a little while ago, right before she went through the gates. Take a look.
Whether it's now, whether it's tonight, whether it's tomorrow, I am just grateful to the president, his administration, Alice Johnson, Ed Martin, all of them for making this happen and just believing in justice, doing their due diligence, looking at the facts of the case, because not many do that. Many go with the headlines of this $30 million fraud scheme, and that is so far from the truth.
You've been here so many times to visit your dad.
Yes.
I mean, what does it feel like you're literally going to leave with him?
It's absolutely amazing. I am beyond blessed and honored to be leaving with my dad.
Savannah and her parents, Elizabeth, have longly said that they were wrongly prosecuted, that it was politically motivated. There's even documentation that the investigator who oversaw their case had her dad's head on a dartboard and would throw darts at it. And they just said it was an unfair investigation from the beginning, which apparently President Trump agreed, signed the pardon today, and he could be coming out at any moment. Elizabeth?
All right. We should note they did appeal their conviction to an appeals court, which upheld that conviction. But either way, they have been pardoned and will soon be released from prison. And Brian Enton, you'll be there to see it when it happens. Thank you so much. All right, we turn now to Arkansas, where an urgent manhunt is underway for that escaped inmate known as the Devil in the Ozarks. 56-year-old Grant Harden was the chief of police for the tiny town of Gateway, Arkansas, right on the border of Arkansas and Missouri. Before he was sentenced to 80 years in prison, that is, for the 2017 murder and a 1997 rape. Now, Hardin is on the run after breaking out of prison on Sunday. Police say he disguised himself to look like a police officer or a guard inside the prison, and then he simply walked out. You can see him there in that image captured by security cameras. A prison officer reportedly opened a gate for him to go through. Hardin was the subject of a chilling 2023 true crime documentary. The prosecutor who put him behind bars says he's a sociopath. Police are warning the public to lock their cars and their doors and to stay far away if they see him. They say he is extremely dangerous. Let's go right now to NewsNation's Xavier Walton right now, live for us on the scene in Calico Rock, Arkansas. Xavier, this search is massive and ongoing. What can you tell us about it?
Elizabeth, it is massive, and that search is only intensifying as the sun starts to go down here in Calico Rock. And you see here, this is a checkpoint. Anybody coming out of this area is told to stop, speak to law enforcement, then pop their trunk. And then down this winding road about 3 miles or so, that's where the prison is. That's where Hardin escaped from. Some people we've spoken to say they saw Hardin on their game hunting cameras on their property. We're working to confirm that with law enforcement. But there are several agencies on the hunt trying to apprehend this man. Obviously, he is considered extremely dangerous. You mentioned that. Authorities believe Grant Hardin could be hiding in the woods near the prison, but heavy rain and rugged terrain are slowing down their search. Earlier, we watched as prison guards on horseback check the train tracks for Hardin. I asked if they had found anything. They said no. Hardin was serving decades in prison for 2 violent crimes. You mentioned those. The focus of that documentary entitled Devil in the Ozarks. Even after hearing that, some residents say they aren't scared of running into the devil in the Ozarks.
I've got my 9 on me at all times, in the house, outside the house, and yesterday when I went into my garden, I was packing and my dad was packing, so.
So you're not really worried about your specific safety?
No, I'm worried about my neighbors. I've got an old neighbor, she's about 80, 90, widow, and I'm worried about her more than anything.
And believe it or not, Elizabeth, that's what I've heard more in response as to whether or not they are concerned or worried. A lot of people here in this small town, they are packing, they are armed. Even a gentleman that was coming by this checkpoint, not afraid of if he runs in to Hardin because he also is armed and ready for whatever comes.
Wow. Xavier Walton, thank you so much. I want to bring in our panel now. Brian Claypool is a criminal defense attorney, and Rob D'Amico is a retired FBI special agent and founder of Sierra One Consulting. Great to have both you here. Brian, I'm going to get to you in a second. I've got a couple law enforcement type questions for Rob. Rob, this man was convicted of murder and rape. Why was he in a medium security prison? And how did he get clothing to dress up as a guard?
Well, I think that's the biggest question that's laying out there. You're facing 80 years, which you're probably not going to live beyond. You're facing murder 1 and rape, and for him to be in a minimum or medium security prison is just it's criminal because he's desperate.
Yeah.
So to get out of it so much easier. Where he got the clothes, I think they're going to have to start checking a whole bunch of things. And how did he really get let out? Because it wasn't a uniform, it wasn't normal. I think they're going to be questioning the people that were involved, looking at where he got things, because it just seems that either it's just complacency, which it could be, or there was something going on.
Right, but Rob, we just saw with the big prison break in Louisiana, they had plenty of help, both inside and then outside once they got out. This raises the question, with somebody helping him on the inside, how would he get something that even resembles a prison uniform? Then how did he get out of his cell and get to a gate where, okay, let's say the guard who opened the gate for him really didn't know and thought he really was a guard or an officer? It's just, I mean, it's stunning. That must be something they're looking into.
Yeah, oh, they have to be. And they have to look at every aspect of this. Now, he's been in there since about 2017. I'm not sure if it's the exact same prison. So he could have been planning this a long time and lining up assistants, bringing things in very slowly. They'll have to look at all the visitors. The packages are always searched, but it may have been innocuous, or it could have been literally someone on the inside helped them out and got to this point. But they're going to have to look at every single aspect of this. And the fact that they weren't, there's a big, huge prison escape that's all over the news. And these guards are just so complacent that they don't notice something, I think is also odd.
Brian, people in the town where Hardin was police chief are definitely on edge. The sister of the person he was convicted of killing said her heart just sank when she heard the news of his escape. There's a real chance this guy could hurt somebody.
Yeah, hey, Elizabeth, great to see you again. Absolutely. I mean, one thing that was done right here is law enforcement contacted that woman, and they contacted a couple of witnesses who testified in that murder case. And by the way, for your viewers, this guy shot somebody in the head with a gun. So why was he in a medium security prison? And my feeling is this clearly has to be an inside job, because he was wearing, Elizabeth, a uniform that doesn't mirror what others wear if they work in that prison. I mean, hello, that's a massive red flag as well. And look, they've got to look at surveillance video as well. I've had a couple of prison cases for use of excessive force, and we always subpoenaed the surveillance inside the prison. And I will tell you, there is a lot of surveillance video going on inside that prison. That's the first place I think they start to try to reconstruct how in the world he walked out of that prison.
Brian, the prosecutor who helped put Hardin behind bars, calls him a sociopath with no moral core. Pretty strong words. And as you just pointed out, the details not only of the murder but also of the rape case, when you read them, it's gruesome.
Yeah, it is. And he raped an elementary school teacher as well. I mean, this guy is a monster without question. I'd go further than a sociopath. He literally is a monster. But for him to be able to pull this off, Elizabeth, it's almost like he might have some kind of mesmerizing effect, having been in law enforcement, right? This is an anomaly. This is a guy that used to be the chief of police in a small town, and now he is incarcerated. And did that somehow lead to him kind of brainwashing some of those folks that worked in the prison and also some of the inmates to facilitate him getting out of prison? But look, there's got to be, in my opinion, too, an independent investigation of this as well. You got to get an outside, maybe a state attorney general's office to get to investigate that.
Rob, law enforcement, as we just heard from Xavier Walton on the scene there, is scouring the Ozark Mountains. They're using helicopters, they're using drones, they're using dogs, but this is a very rugged and remote area. Heavy rain has been falling for some time in that area. How does that affect not only the search, but Hardin's ability to hide?
It actually helps it. I mean, bad weather, you can move and it's not as noticeable. When you're out, patrolling, searching for him, I look for Eric Rudolph in the mountains of North Carolina. You're listening for noise and you're making noise. In a downpour, you can run and no one's going to hear you. You can get very good distance without having to worry about it. And then also it distracts you. You can't fly drones, you can't fly helicopters. It can actually mess with thermal imagery that they're using on some of those devices because it cools everything down. So if he knows about it, which he probably does. Another thing is he's a lot more dangerous than just a fugitive. He knows how police set up. So like a lot of times they'll be watching someone to do surveillance on people that he may know, that he may go to. And when you're doing surveillance, you're vulnerable because you're looking at a target and your back's open, and he knows that. And he knows that he could sneak up onto even two police officers doing surveillance. He also knows that if he takes a car and leaves the driver alive, that it's going to get out really quick what car he has and where it was.
Yeah.
That is problematic because either he kidnaps him or he disposes of them to get the vehicle so it's not known that it's stolen so he can get a further distance from where he took it.
Oof. Hope they catch this guy soon. All right, I need to switch gears for one moment before I let the two of you go because I want to have you both weigh in on this absolutely insane story out of New York City. Police say a man, a cryptocurrency billionaire, escaped from a swanky Manhattan townhouse after he was allegedly held there for weeks by kidnappers who brutally abused him trying to get the passcode into his crypto wallet. Police say it was a twisted effort to steal the password from his Bitcoin fortune. 3 people are now under arrest. They reportedly tied him up. They shocked him with electrical wires. They pistol whipped him. They even used a chainsaw on his leg. It goes on and on. First of all, Brian, This is extraordinary, but this is not the first crime like this we've seen. There have been a series of kidnappings in Europe of cryptocurrency millionaires and billionaires who there have been attempted kidnappings or actual kidnappings of.
Yeah, Elizabeth, there has been. And can you say desperation? That's what kind of people we have that are doing this. Both of these suspects who were arrested had financial problems, right? And I think that's the consistent fiber in these kind of cases. But look, Elizabeth, at the end of the day, these two that have been charged are potentially facing 60 plus years in jail. I hope they were charged with what's called kidnapping in the first degree. That's a Class A felony. What is that? That's when you hold somebody hostage and you physically harm them and you seek ransom. They wanted him to give up his Bitcoin code so that they could take his Bitcoin. So that's ransom. That carries 15 to 40 years. And then you've got assault in the second degree, which carries up to 25 years because they beat him as well. And then they should charge him with another crime called menacing in the second degree as well. What's that? That's death threats. They threatened to kill him, his family.
They dangled him over the edge of the rooftop of the building. I mean, threatening to drop him to the sidewalk below. This is insane when you read the details of what they did to this man.
Yeah, absolutely. And and these prosecutors need to send a message too. I mean, this guy had to run for his life. And also there's a false imprisonment charge as well.
Yeah.
4 charges should be on the table and they should be seeking the most excessive sentence possible. That's the only way we're going to start beginning to stop these kind of heinous crimes, Elizabeth.
Rob, super quick, the biggest mystery of all in Manhattan, where everybody sort of lives on top of each other, this is in a really swanky neighborhood. The fact that they were able to hold this man for weeks, allegedly, hostage and physically abuse him the way they did, undetected, is astonishing.
Yeah, when you look at those old townhouses, though, that are brick and concrete, they're built and they last, and it's really tough to. And in New York, it's like you just don't. It's not me. It's not my problem. Attitude comes in there. But you know, the problem is with crypto, people carry so much crypto in a place to transfer. It's like going out to dinner with all your life savings.
Right. It's all right there.
I advise all my clients, if you trade and you want to keep a couple $100,000 or whatever you trade amount on your phone or in your exchange, and everything else on a hard token locked up separate from you, so that you're not going out there with the ability to be coerced to give up 30. He was worth 30 million. They say the guy who kidnapped him had 100 million in cryptocurrency. Not sure if that's true, but he was valued around that.
Well, and it's not like a credit card company where if somebody steals your credit card, you can call the company and cut it off.
Banking, wire transfers,
they actually
cash.
just walk away with that money if they can get that passcode, which tells you something about why they were so desperate and perhaps did what they did, allegedly. Rob D'Amico, Brian Claypool, always great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up for us, President Trump vents his frustration with Vladimir Putin, saying he is very, very disappointed in the Russian dictator and publicly wonders what has happened to Putin to change him. Well, I'm going to speak to a former KGB agent about some possible answers next. And from sea to shining sea, mining companies are heading thousands of feet below the ocean to find rare minerals. We have an exclusive look at how it's done straight ahead.
Tonight on Balance, rapper and actor Ice Cube joins Leland, how he defied the odds to reach success, and what he's passionate about now, plus what he thinks hard work really means to kids today. Tonight at 9/8 Central on Balance.
Tonight, President Trump is warning Russia it has 2 weeks to show it wants peace, amid signs Trump is growing increasingly frustrated with Vladimir Putin. Probably sensing that, Putin today suggested another round of talks with Ukraine in Istanbul next week, after he refused to show up for the first round of talks, which achieved absolutely nothing. The proposal follows sharp words from President Trump, who warned Putin was, quote, playing with fire. Putin not only was a no-show in Istanbul last week, he then launched the biggest aerial assault against Ukraine right after having a 2-hour conversation with President Trump, a talk that Trump called excellent. Trump is now questioning Putin's commitment to a true and lasting peace deal with Ukraine in the Oval Office today.
We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently. I'm very disappointed at what happened couple of nights now where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation.
Trump's disappointment with Putin marks a distinct change for President Trump. Previously, he has talked about his special relationship with the Russian dictator and that he knew him well. But as Putin stalled on the ceasefire, Trump's impatience grew, and he posted about Putin, quote, "Something has happened to him. He's gone absolutely crazy." With a ceasefire deal still elusive, Zelensky is seeking new military support, finding it today from Germany. Chancellor Friedrich Merz announced an agreement with Ukraine to develop long-range weapons, including missiles that can hit targets inside Russia. For more on all this, we're joined by Jack Barsky, a former KGB agent turned U.S. counterintelligence spy. He's also an IT specialist and author of Deep Undercover about his life as a KGB sleeper agent living in the United States. Jack, great to have you back on the show. So President Trump said today, we will know in 2 weeks if Putin wants peace or if he's, quote, tapping us along. There are very few in his own party or leading countries around the world who believe Putin really wants peace of any kind. But Putin did say today, okay, another round of talks in Istanbul. What is Putin's strategy here?
Putin has always been a great manipulator. You can't read him. Our president, as much as he, plays games, so to speak, and I'm not criticizing him here. It's hard to predict himself, but he's easier to read than Vladimir Putin. The guy is the most cagey politician in the last 100 years, so to speak. You really don't know what's inside. The only thing that has become apparent is, he would just turn 72, right? Mm-hmm. And he is now even more, as a accomplished narcissist, so to speak, he is now thinking more about his legacy. And he has to go by himself, for himself. He has to go into history as a great savior of Russia. And that's why he's still talking about, rebuilding Russia's greatness, right, and so forth.
So Trump posted, quote, "I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. He's gone absolutely crazy." Trump has long said he had this good relationship with Putin. What happened to it? Did anything happen to it, or was that all an illusion?
That was Donald Trump playing games. He also had a great relationship with Rocket Man. Now, no way that inside of him he thought he wanted to be friend with this clown in North Korea. And I think this is Donald Trump wants to. From his first year in his presidency, I thought he was always a bit naive in foreign policy by just claiming, playing the game of personal relationships. I know he's a friend, and then we get along and it's going to work. It hasn't been working, and Vladimir Putin will do what's best for Vladimir Putin.
The French president, Emmanuel Macron, has long said that Putin changed during COVID, that the extreme isolation he put himself in somehow altered him. And we all remember those pictures of Putin meeting with people, sitting almost preposterously far away at the end of a 20-foot-long conference table. Marco Rubio, who was then on the Senate Intelligence Committee and privy to intelligence assessments, said, quote, "Something is off with Putin." Do you think there's something to this? Is something off with Putin?
Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a neurologist. I can give you some kind of an educated guess. And again, I've been following Vladimir Putin ever since he became president. And what's happened to him is he's more concerned about living a little longer to get out of his life as a big winner and have a monument built right next to Peter the Great as Vladimir the Great. And for that, he has to survive for a while. He needs to have a big win.
Right. So it's just that he continued on with this silly, extremely long conference table and severe isolation long after many other world leaders were sitting very close to each other and managing to survive and do just fine. A lot of people thought that he might have been somehow, I don't know, a little off his game as a result of this. In the meantime, Russian bots are now trolling President Trump, calling him, quote, a clown and a child. The Kremlin spokesman said Trump is suffering from, quote, emotional overstrain. Russian television posted that Trump's message leaves little room for interpretation until he posts the opposite tomorrow morning. None of these insulting comments and posts would be happening without Putin's blessing. So what is Putin up to?
Well, again, he's playing the game. He's showing you the hand that Donald Trump wants to shake in peace, and then he withdraws it again. The fact that he has been able to survive as president of Russia in a country where the standard of living has not increased over his rule, it indicates that he really is a very clever politician, and I would not ever take somebody else against Vladimir Putin one-on-one in a talk. And you remember what he did to Tucker Carlson?
Yeah.
Okay, Tucker Carlson is one of the best interviewers, and he had him look like a high school student.
Well, it will be interesting to see what he says. It seems to be needlessly provocative to have this 2-hour conversation with President Trump and then launch the biggest aerial bombing campaign of Ukraine since the war began, and to allow Russian TV, Russian bots to post insulting messages about President Trump. I don't know. Talk about poking the bear. We'll see what happens.
Well, but he also knows that bear is not going to go out and really attack him. Okay, This is not, the United States is not going into Russia. So your guess is better than mine.
Yeah, but you were there and inside the KGB back when he was running the joint. Jack Barsky, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right, coming up for us, here's a question that came up in the Karen Reed trial today. Do those cuts on that dead police officer, John O'Keefe's arm, prove he was hit by her car? Karen Reed's defense attorney says, no, definitely not. We'll get into it next. All right, we have an update on our lead story today. That reality show TV star turned convicted felon Todd Chrisley was just released from prison after a pardon from President Trump. Let's go back to NewsNation's Brian Anton live outside that prison in Pensacola, Florida. Brian, I hear they snuck him out the back.
They did, Elizabeth. I heard a rumor that this was going to happen. You know, this prison is actually controlled by the Navy because it's on a Navy base, and I was told the Navy was going to help them get out through a back, small little entrance. It's hard to even see on the map, but they did it. So Todd Chrisley is now out of prison. He's on his way back to Nashville right now, I'm told. A lot of the fans who are here don't really realize it yet, so they're going to be disappointed because they wanted to see him come by. His wife, Julie Chrisley, I am told, is still in prison right now. In Kentucky. Their son is there, Grayson, their son is there, hoping to get her out sometime soon, hopefully tonight, he says.
Going to be quite a family reunion for the Chrisleys, who still had many years left on those prison sentences before getting...
Well, listen to this.
Yeah?
You say that. Yeah, they haven't seen each other or been able to talk to each other for 2.5 years, which I thought was interesting. They're not allowed to talk on the phone. So it is going to be an interesting reunion.
Well, Brian Anton, you've been in touch with Todd Chrisley for years now. From behind bars, he was calling you to complain about the prison conditions inside that pretty minimal security prison there in Pensacola, Florida. But I'm sure if he talks to anybody, it'll be to you. So stay tuned, as they say. All right, thanks, Brian. Coming up for us, pictures of arm lacerations and images of blood in the snow are just some of the new evidence that was presented in the retrial of Karen Reed today. Remember, Karen Reed is the woman accused of killing her ex-boyfriend and Boston police officer John O'Keefe. She was in court for day 22 of this very high-profile murder trial, something that's inspired podcasts and documentaries galore. Reed's defense lawyers spent the day running rings around one of the prosecution's key witnesses. That was a crash reconstruction expert named Judson Welcher. Welcher says O'Keefe's injuries are consistent with being hit by a Lexus SUV that was going in reverse, just like Karen Reed's Lexus SUV. He also honed in on the injuries on O'Keefe. Lacerations were found on O'Keefe's arm. Welcher said the direction of the cuts are consistent with the way a car would hit and injure him. The court also released pages of text messages between Reed and O'Keefe. And in one text chain, Reed says, "Tell me if you're interested in someone. Can't think of any other reason you've been like this." To which Reed O'Keefe responds, "Nope, things haven't been great between us for a while. Ever consider that?" And then take a look at these photos of blood-covered snow in the yard where O'Keefe's body was found, and high-quality images of Karen Reed's broken taillight. All right, to discuss all of this now, joining us is former FBI agent and NewsNation law and justice contributor Jennifer Coffindaffer and criminal defense attorney Peter Elkin. Welcome to you both. Peter, I'll start with you because, you know, we get these expert witnesses all the time. Every single trial seems to have an expert witness of some kind. What did you make of the crash reconstruction expert? He was very strong in saying these injuries on Officer O'Keefe definitely line up with being hit by a car like the one that belonged to Karen Reed.
Yeah, this, I hate to use that cliched expression, battle of the experts, but that really seems to be what this is going to amount to, because we haven't even heard the defense yet. We've only had the prosecution's case so far. And the defense has experts that are going to say the exact opposite. Today, during cross-examination, the defense counsel, Alessi, I thought was rather effective in trying to knock holes and question the methodology in a variety of ways of what this particular expert did. And then, of course, they're going to have their own expert when the defense comes on. And here's the problem for the prosecution. Whenever, at the end of the trial, the jury scratches their head and says, I don't know, I heard this expert, I heard that, I don't know who to believe. We don't really have any eyewitnesses, anything to nail down the case at all. Then if they're really confused, then it wasn't proved beyond a reasonable doubt. And like that old baseball expression, tie goes to the runner. If the jury really isn't sure either way, then the person really has to be found not guilty. And that's the problem with the battle of the experts. If nothing is really nails it down.
Welcher, Jennifer, Welcher, the crash reconstruction expert for the prosecution, talked about the fact that a lot of people think if you get hit by a car, you're going to have big bruises or broken bones. And he talked about the fact that Officer O'Keefe could have been sort of glancingly hit by Karen Reed as she backed up into him, not directly hit and run over. And then that would explain why he just had the lacerations on his arm and, of course, the wound to the back of his head when he fell backwards. Was he effective?
I thought he was very effective. I mean, he definitely made the case. And look, Elizabeth, at the end of the day, there were microscopic shards of the taillight in John O'Keefe's shirt that can't be overlooked. His DNA was on the taillight pieces. A arm hair of O'Keefe was on the bumper. I mean, this is a situation where the totality of the circumstances, as this crash reconstructionist brought home, was the result of Karen Reed backing up at 24 miles an hour and hitting John O'Keefe, and all that evidence lines up.
And Jennifer, to that end, he was also analyzing Karen Reed's car data. Explain that.
Yes, he analyzed that exactly when it went into reverse. And the reason this was so critical, because it lined up with the cellular digital information that showed his cell phone, which was in his back pocket, stopped moving at nearly the precise time, just within seconds of this backup motion of the car. So now it's all came in sync. The puzzle was put together today.
And Peter, we haven't gotten yet, the prosecution is still putting on its case. We, of course, haven't gotten to what may be arguably the most controversial and certainly the weakest, perhaps, part of the prosecution case, which is the very lead investigator investigating it. An officer who text messages showed was wildly inappropriate and biased toward O'Keefe and against Karen Reed. He was fired from the police department after an investigation. Are they going to put him on the stand, or do they just pretend, how do they address that elephant in the room, in other words?
The prosecution apparently is not going to, but I'm almost certain the defense would want to do that. And every step of the way, there is a problem with this. Lead investigator Proctor shows up. There's a body on the lawn in front of the house where supposedly he was dropped off to go to a party, and doesn't even go look inside the house. Just said, well, those are police officers, so I'm not even going to look. So we don't even know if there was a struggle in there, if there's evidence, if there's blood. And this is just one example. Every single step along the way, first of all, he should have jumped right out of that case.
Yeah.
I mean, he was biased if he knew all the people in there. I mean, I could go with this laundry list of things.
Oh, we'll have plenty of time. We'll have plenty of time for that because Officer Proctor, wow, he will play a starring role in this trial, whether the prosecution likes it or not, because the defense has so much ammunition there. Jennifer Coffindaffer, Peter Elkin, thank you both so much. Really appreciate it. We'll have you back to analyze as the day goes forward, the trial goes forward. In the meantime, coming up for us, we're going to dive into a controversial new industry that President Trump says could produce the next gold rush. NewsNation got exclusive access to the testing of a deep-sea mining robot. We'll show you exactly how it works. What if the United States mined more minerals on the seafloor than on land? That could one day become reality. President Trump signed an executive order clearing the way for companies to more easily get permission to do just that. It is a controversial practice that critics say will harm the environment. But those who support the industry believe the impact on the economy, like the creation of new jobs, will offset the negatives. NewsNation's Nancy Liu traveled to Ontario, Canada, where one company is testing first-of-its-kind technology it says could both mine the seafloor and protect the ecosystem all at the same time.
Elizabeth, this is part of what's being called the next gold rush, a mineral-rich nodule from the bottom of the ocean where there are billions of them. And this is technology being developed by Impossible Metals in the worldwide race to get them. This new technology is at the surface of a controversial new frontier at the bottom of the sea. In a NewsNation exclusive, Impossible Metals giving a sneak peek of its Eureka tube robot, a high-tech prototype for deep-sea mining. The company believes it can mine the ocean floor for valuable metals with minimal disturbance to ocean life and at a low cost.
Polymetallic nodules, these potato-sized rocks, there are quite a lot of people now attempting to harvest or mine these from the ocean. But the reason I created the company was I was concerned about the environmental destruction that the older technology was doing.
Vast swaths of the seafloor around the world are covered with billions of potato-sized rocks like this, nodules from long-extinct volcanoes. They are rich in nickel, cobalt, manganese, and other minerals that can be used for batteries and other clean energy technology.
Globally, I think about 25% of vehicles are now electric. China is over 50%. So many parts of the world are replacing oil and gas with electrification. Electrification fundamentally needs metal.
But there are some major environmental concerns. Vacuuming and scraping the seafloor changes and destroys habitats, endangering marine life. So Impossible Metals plans a future fleet of autonomous vehicles with cameras and robotic arms that can use AI to minimize disruption to the ecosystem.
We use AI algorithms to look, and in real time, if we see a coral or a sponge, we put a virtual circle around it, and the vehicle says, do not disturb anything within that circle, and it just flies over the top without impacting it.
President Trump passed an executive order in April to accelerate the deep-sea mining industry, and Impossible Metals aims to be among the first companies to forge a path in these uncharted waters.
The seabed is the only resource of scale that we can access that can help us mitigate the concerns of China controlling this resource.
The U.S. is in a race to catch up when it comes to deep sea mining. China leads the world in the field, aiming to mine the Pacific, Indian, and Arctic Oceans, and greatly influencing international regulations. But with a green light from the Trump administration, Impossible Metals and other American companies are diving deeper into the action for these. Elizabeth?
All right, Nancy Liu, thanks so much. Coming up for us, Chris Cuomo joins me live for a closer look on the rise of extremism in our politics. All right, remember to download our NewsNation app for the latest news on the top stories of the night. You can find it at the Apple App Store and Google Play, so don't miss out. All right, Chris Cuomo joins me now. And Chris, you've been on a tear about the rise of domestic extremism. And the fact is it's not just on one side.
Nope. It's, we know the right wing better, right? The nationalists, the free man, all of those hateful people. But they now have an equal opposite in the left, because there's been this odd convergence of extreme Islamism and radical anarchic lefties. And I'm not talking about Democrats and I'm not talking about Republicans. So there is this kind of misconception that the two parties contain all of the spectrum, and they don't. And my concern is, Elizabeth, I feel it in my bones. That we are spending all this energy on these fake fights, okay? And we are ignoring a threat that wants to kill both sides. And it's right here at home, and it's growing. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about tonight.
That's the kind of extremism that foments and stokes violence and rogue actors even to do something unthinkable.
So the CEO murder, the guy in New Orleans, the guy who drove through the crowd and killed that girl, the last couple of mass shootings where there was the church, the Israeli embassy, what do they all have in common? The campus protests, what do they all have in common?
One guy.
They are often lone wolves, but ideologically, what do they have? Destroy the left, destroy the system, that America represents the problem. Now, is that what the jihadis think? Yeah, for their own reasons. But now that they want the same thing, you have a really potent enemy. Yeah. You have a guy who's not a jihadi, who's a Latino, who's 30 years old in America with a family doing all the right things, and he decides to kill Israeli embassy workers. That's how perverse this is. That's why I'm doing it.
All right, Chris Cuomo, very important. All yours. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.